Yeah, and I'ma work cause I ain't going out lazy, bruh. Thought he was conscious, but the homie just played me, bruh. The house of consciousness is going out crazy, bruh. They crazy, bruh. Alright, it's getting kinda dirty in these YouTube streets. The Amira squad, God thinking you dudes weak. Islam or Judaism, where you learn what you dudes teach. The West African rapper slapping with that voodoo speech. All that sub-Saharan terror about a cuckoo feet. I'm like Norm of the agricultural farmer that grew you wheat for the storehouses. We feed the Hebrews and lead the people when we defeat the feeble. They wanna know polite rip me off, but Sonetta paid me my money though. That mean he 100. And I'ma work cause I ain't going out lazy, bruh. Thought he was conscious, but the homie just played me, bruh. The house of consciousness is going out crazy, bruh. They crazy, bruh. Nubian with the Jews, I rock the pinky. I think Jesus got to save me, a doctor save me, a Dr. Inky. I cop the copper jewels all blue and red. I'm not the chakra doctor y'all claim woke, but you in bed, you won't pop a chopper, you Grandmaster J. You just talking. Punks turn the other cheek and you will walk away. Y'all gon' have to pardon my Moorish. That's Taharka Bay. I'm on that black African power on my darkest day. And that's my brother Ankh stomping them other punks. We brought them gators to Italy, you loving the Moors. And now I'm teaching from my shrine like brother Jabari. Scoping the savannah cause I'm on another safari. Tasha K showed us Frank record. Young Pharaoh just losing his mind and y'all can't help him. I know one thing, you're a fool if you're still out here donating to Umar School. That shit blue. And I'ma work cause I ain't going out lazy, bruh. Thought he was conscious, but the homie just played me, bruh. The house of consciousness is going out crazy, bruh. They crazy, bruh. Look. You showing your hidden colors like Tariq Nasheed. A bunch of pseudo-information I don't think I need. Probably lying on the text, ask Divine or Zion Lax. Just get that microphone ready. With Metal Netta, I'm Stone Jetty. A Ujahu, a Saw Imhotep. Y'all probably timid still on them Bobby Hemmett teachings. I'm in Gozy with the DNA. Cats corny and it's killing me too. You talk that black shit, but you look Arab like Gorilla Hebrew. You need therapy, they telling me just chillin', be cool. I'm a magi archer, you a sad guy talking. And I'ma work cause I ain't going out lazy, bruh. Thought he was conscious, but the homie just played me, bruh. The house of consciousness is going out crazy, bruh. They crazy, bruh.
We out there. What's up? Guess we about to do it again for a minute until my wife get home and be like, "You been streaming all day." That's how it happened for some of us. All right, so I just wanted to build on a few things to get a video up here to support some of the things that I said on a live stream earlier concerning. Not even really concerning simulation theory, but I wanted to build on that a little bit too. I see you out there, boo. I see y'all. I want to build a little bit on that too, but primarily I want to build on the double-slit experiment. Because when one starts talking about simulation theory, that's just a theory. That's not a real thing. Can't source nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? If people who don't know what that is, that's just like people saying we living in a simulation, that our surroundings ain't our real reality, and that we're living in a simulation. Far out theory. But it leads a lot of people back to real scientific theories that are kind of weird. And one concerning how atoms and how the things that make up our bodies, how the atoms that make up our bodies work. When we start talking about quantum physics and quantum mechanics and what have you, I made a claim that an atom abandons its superposition when it's being observed. And it chooses one spot in the universe. And that's where it's at once it's being observed. Or like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, the observation is a measurement of that atom, and it causes it. He didn't say the rest, but he is explaining what causes this atom to abandon its superposition. Now, what do you mean superposition? It's just like saying it's everywhere at once. Because when you start to go into the quantum reality, we got to learn how to deal with probability. Okay? Because pinpointing where an atom is when it's not being observed is going to take us in the realm of probability. And we learned this because we had this test. Scientist Thomas Young did this test, brought forth this test called the double-slit test. And we might have all heard of the double-slit test. We might all know about the double-slit test. You feel me? Oh, I see my man say I want to yeah, thank you, man, for coming through, Mike Rob. The more I see y'all tribute, I see you in that. Hey, I see everybody. But look, if you ain't heard about the double-slit test or you ain't game on the double-slit test or whatever, it simply was a test that they did where they isolated one atom, got it down to an electron or whatever, and then they shot it through two slits. And how the atom started behaving was crazy interesting to the scientists. It was actually a scientific anomaly, because when they would look at the experiment with their eyes, just like this, right? All right, when they would turn and look at it, it would do one thing. And when they turned away and ran the test, it would do another thing. Now, why would I come on here and say this like this if I was wrong, if I knew I was wrong, and just be risking everything I'm talking about? It's because I believe I understand how the double-slit test transpired, and I believe I understand the quantum mechanics behind how an atom works. They came to the conclusion that an atom will abandon its superposition once being observed, because they ran so many tests. It got so deep, they kept coming up with new tests to test it, put mirrors in there, see what would have happened if they looked through a mirror, what would have happened if they did it with a camera and left the room. It would do the same thing every time. So this is how I broke it down in my analogy in layman's terms, but I'm gonna play a video to get people to see what I've seen before. And I don't know if it'll be the best video to explain it. I just put up a double-slit test video so people can actually understand how this works. Thanks for sharing them links from Popular Mechanics. My man, you feel me? So my analogy was this, for you to understand how it worked. Imagine you got a baseball and a bucket of paint next to you. You hang up a curtain and cut two slits big enough for the baseball to fit through in the curtain. One slit is on the left, one slit is on the right. Now, you only got enough paint on the ball so it won't splatter to just leave a direct mark wherever it hit. You pick up the ball and throw it while you're looking. You throw it through one of the slits, and it hits the back of the wall, and it does what you expect. Bow. It hits, and you see just the imprint of the paint from the ball on that back wall. But when you close your eyes and throw the ball, you see a whole big ass splatter on the wall back there, like it went through both of the slits. Big ass, you don't see one impact mark. You can't even tell where it hit the wall. All you see is paint splattered on the back of the wall. And these were the results of the double-slit test. That paint splattered on the wall in the test, they deemed is called an interference pattern. So they came to the conclusion that the atom was changing from a particle to a wave by us observing it. That's the double-slit test. And so now I'm about to show a little video with it so that we can all know that we really about to keep we gotta keep learning. But again, this probably won't be the best video on it, but it's good that I'm playing this because this person also, this person also addressed the simulation theory. So let me know if y'all getting the audio good from this video I'm about to play. And listen to how the double slit test transpired, and then let's address it. Because my claim is that an atom abandons its superposition in the universe and takes up one spot when it's being observed. And I learned that from knowing the double slit test, but let's see.
We are living in a matrix-like simulation. You may know about or remember one of the most famous experiments in the history of physics, the experiment of Thomas Young, the double slit experiment. It was a real coup in physics and led many scientists into the study of quantum mechanics. If you throw solid balls at a shield with a slit cut into it, a single diffuse strip designating the strike points will appear on the screen behind the shield. If there are two slits in the shield, then there will be two strips. But how will waves behave if aimed at the shield? They will pass through the slot and spread out. The greatest impact of the waves will be in the line of the slit, as in the case with the balls. But if you add a second slit, everything changes. A number of alternating interference strips will appear on the projection screen. And when we shine light on the two strips, this is exactly what happens. And this is how Mr. Young proved the wave theory of light. If light were corpuscular, like a particle, instead of wave-like, it would behave like the balls, and the screen would show two strips of light corresponding to the two slits. That didn't happen. Later, it turned out that electrons and protons behave exactly the same way, showing that they also seem to exist as waves and not as points. There was one assumption that perhaps light and the others were particles and that somehow the particles bumped into each other and flew apart. So, to test this, physicists decided to shoot electrons at the target one by one, single file. And what do you think happened? The strangest thing imaginable. The interference pattern still appeared on the screen. It seemed that the single electrons somehow divided into two waves, passed through both slits, then interfered with themselves. Impossible. So physicists tried to find out through which gap the electron actually passes. They installed measuring instruments to check this. Another seeming impossibility occurred. The electrons stopped behaving like waves and began acting like particles, and left a trace on the screen of two distinct strips.
What? Keep listening. When they tried to look at it, they stopped doing it. He gonna keep on telling y'all.
With no interference. They had to admit something completely mind-blowing, that the fact of our observation or measurement destroyed the wave function of the photons, causing them to become like points, corpuscular. The electron, under the influence of observation, behaved like a particle, flying through one slit and not through two. Interpretations. Well, it certainly looks like the work of a game engine, doesn't it? This might make you think that our...
I'm gonna stop there because now he going into simulation. We're gonna do it again in case. I went to double slit test for kids because there's a simple explanation. I don't know if everybody just understood what dude was just saying. But basically, it abandoned its superposition and went into a particle and took one place. But allow me to play this, because I watched this video myself, so don't take it like, oh, I'm condescending by playing this double slit experiment for kids. They gonna just break it down.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands.
I know we all get
Good
that.
so far. Now, let's go quantum.
Now watch this.
An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern.
Now please stick with me on this part, because he about to break it down. I had to show the most elementary video I could find so I can make sure we all grabbing this. This video helped me grab this myself.
So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other.
They're in what? They're in superposition. See, people might not know what a superposition is. It's all of these possibilities. Now we're dealing with probability because we're on the quantum level. But let's keep going, because they threw that camera in there for a reason. It's not over. I told you these atoms abandon their superposition once they're being observed. So watch this.
But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many.
What did it do? It abandoned its superposition. It abandoned its superposition and went back to being a particle, not acting like a wave anymore, because they started trying to observe it. And he about to break it down. So what are we saying exactly? We're saying the atoms that make up your body on a quantum level, when they are not being observed, are every place in the universe. Now, let's deal with it.
The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing. What did I say? I says an atom abandons its superposition. You see, it having the interference pattern on the back wall is the result of that atom having a superposition. That's why they couldn't tell which slot it went through when they wasn't looking. But when they started looking, it chose a slit and just went through that one. It wouldn't. Don't look at no deep video on it, because this thing, I just wanted to show a rudiment, an elementary video on it, just to break it down so that we can all understand. You feel me? I don't know about that, but it's quite weird that our atoms the atoms that make up your body actually act like that. And it'll be pretty hard to refute that once we get a proper understanding of what that's really all about. You see what I'm saying? That's real science right there. And it even got scientists explained. I would try to find, but now I'm just looking through YouTube's that's explaining it. You feel me? And so don't get me wrong. Like I didn't preamble no sources on this or nothing. I just wanted to get a few things out that I was just talking about earlier tonight on Sonetta TV. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Well, now we're starting to talk about, the quantum reality, you know what I'm saying? When we start talking about theories like simulation theory, that's just a stupid, silly theory. Like, don't nobody be like, But don't be afraid to think about stuff, too, just because of what somebody might say. You know what I'm saying? What for? You feel me? But this type of science, where the atoms that make up your body act differently when being measured or upon being observed, that's crazy. If we really catch the magnitude of what that test was showing us, though. Let me look at the chat. You know what I'm saying? So when you go to sleep, what places you go? I don't know, that's weird. I'm getting to a place where my dreams are starting to be seeming as real as my real life. And I'm getting a lot of control over my dreams at this age, too. You see, I listen to a lot of other stuff. One of my favorite radio shows is Coast to Coast AM. And so I'm willing to talk about aliens. I'm willing to talk about stuff that you might not hear being talked about in the so-called conscious community. Who cares, bro? I'll be like, what cat's got a standard or something? Really, my only standard is truth, or trying to keep it as truthfully as it could be. Because when you're talking about things that you can't even qualify as truth, like when you're talking about UFOs and stuff, that type of stuff can't, that's just personal experiences. You feel me? But I wanted y'all to see a better video that went in further depth on that test, because they really, really tried to outsmart the atom, and they never could outsmart the atom. So if y'all watch the elementary video we just seen, you seen that they put a camera there to observe it, and it stopped putting the interference pattern on the wall behind it. Instead, it started acting how you think it would act. And so then they turned the camera away in the test, and it started giving that same interference pattern again. So they was like, okay, we need to find different ways to observe it. So they started using mirrors. They set up a system of mirrors, yo. And this is the craziest part about the test for real. And you ain't gonna believe me, so that's why I want to find another video. They set up a mirror that sent an image to a camera that the thing couldn't see or something. And and the mirror was set behind the double slit, not in front of the double slit. So it had to have already happened. And the thing, it changed. It went back in time You think I'm lying? You're going to think I'm lying. It changed what it was. Like, it was like, oh, you see me now? And went and changed what it was after it had already been recorded on the tape, dude. And I hope I ain't butchering that. I probably am, but I want to give greater evidence of that. And so what? So what I'm supposed to do? Try to stay in some little template? I know things like, was I wrong? The atom abandoned its superposition because it was being observed. That's why I don't be liking hella people in the studio all the time. When I'm trying to vibe, like if I want to go in on my bars, I don't even want to be observed. You feel me? I'm keeping it a buck. All right, what else could I show you to prove you that? You know what I'm saying? I want you, we doing it now. We got to look at the real deal then. Because you got to see it for real, man. Come on. We're going to keep on getting it in.
Have you heard about the weird wealth-building experiment these five brothers did? So these guys set out to discover...
Professor Dave here. Let's talk about the double-slit experiment.
Until people get it, we gonna do this. We be learning.
In learning about the first few discoveries that led to the development of quantum mechanics, we discussed wave-particle duality. So we understand that both light and matter behave as both particles and waves. But we glossed over some of the technical details, so let's zoom in for a moment. In 1801, Thomas Young performed experiments where light was passed through a plane with two slits in it, striking a screen beyond. The diffraction and interference patterns that resulted clearly supported the wave model of light, with the brighter bands representing constructive interference and the darker bands representing destructive interference, with the width of the bands being a function of the frequency of the light. Later in the century, Maxwell showed that light is a wave of oscillating electric and magnetic fields. So it seemed as though the case was closed on the declaration of light as waves. But as we said, in 1905, Einstein solved the problem of the photoelectric effect by assigning particle nature to light. Thus, wave-particle duality was born. Later, de Broglie proposed that particles must therefore also display wave-like behavior, and this was shown to be true in an experiment, just like Young's more than 100 years prior. This modern version is what we are typically referring to when we talk about the double-slit experiment. From this, it was shown that a beam of electrons exhibits diffraction and interference patterns, just like light does. This demonstrates the wave-like properties of electrons, and by extension, matter in general. Later, low-intensity experiments showed that even an individual electron, when passing through biprisms or slits, will interfere with itself, making the wave-like nature of the electron undeniable. So it was shown that electrons act as both particles and waves, but not just electrons. Neutrons were also shown to exhibit diffraction patterns. It must be under...
He teaching more, but I was wanting somebody to show how far they went on the test, but I ain't even about to beat that in the ground. Now that I let you down that wormhole, any of us can just continue down it. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather just build and do my thing, and I heard my queen got home, so now I ain't gonna be on here all night long. Oh no, no, I'm not. But what somebody got to say to that? I got a call-in number. Like, what's the matter with that? I don't know what was the matter with that, so I guess that's over. You feel me? You feel me? We understand now that when particles are being observed, they got both functions. He said particle. Talk about Einstein calling in a spooky action at a distance. When you know a little bit of something about the things that I'm talking about, then you know what I'm saying. Hold on, man. Let me see what's going on. I think they might need my assistance or what have you. You know what I'm saying. I want to see something.
Yeah, and I'ma work 'cause I ain't going out lazy, bruh. Thought he was conscious, but the homie just played me, bruh. The house of consciousness is going out crazy, bruh. They crazy, bruh. Alright, it's getting kinda dirty in these YouTube streets. The Amira squad, God thinking you dudes weak. Islam or Judaism, where you learn what you dudes teach. The West African rapper slapping with that voodoo speech. All that sub-Saharan terror about a cuckoo feet. I'm like Norma, the agricultural farmer that grew you wheat for the storehouses. We feed the Hebrews and lead the people when we defeat the feeble. They wanna know polite rip me off, but Sonetta paid me my money though. That mean he 100. And I'ma work 'cause I ain't going out lazy, bruh. Thought he was conscious, but the homie just played me, bruh. The house of consciousness is going out crazy, bruh. They crazy, bruh. Nubian with the Jews, I rock the pinky. I think Jesus got to save me, a doctor save me, a Dr. Inky. I cop the copper.
Yeah. You know what though? I want to go handle some business and knock this down, so I'm about to get off this stream right here and get back at y'all in